Hello, everyone. Let's talk about how the training will proceed. First, let's understand the interface and course curriculum. You can view the list of all lessons in the menu. It can also be pinned. What do we have here? Well, this is the first lesson. You are watching it now. A video will be uploaded here. The platform is still in development, so it's hosted locally, but it will eventually look like this. So, good. The next two lessons are not programming related. They are more about how to approach developing a startup, whether it's your startup or one you are creating on order or in partnership with someone. They are very important, but they are not programming related. Then a little preparation, like a lesson on installing programs and a masterclass on VS Code. This is a code editor, basically, where we will program everything. And then it starts. Lots and lots of programming lessons, and they all have about the same structure. Let's look at one of them. For example, we enter this lesson, and what do we see here? We have a title. Each lesson includes a video. There are these small blocks. What's usually there? Some goals, conclusions, necessary terminal commands, useful links, and it's always very brief. So, before watching the video, it might be worth looking at these blocks, or you can go straight to the video. Also in the lessons below all this content, you can see the changes made to the code as part of this lesson. From here, it will be convenient for you to copy it if you need to. If anything, you can change the display here and, for example, put everything in one column if you're watching from a mobile phone, or even hide it if you need to. At the bottom of the lessons, there is an option to go to the next lesson and also mark it as completed. As for marking the lesson as completed, we have a lot of lessons, and to make it convenient for you to navigate them as soon as you finish a lesson, just check it off here and that's it. And the next time you enter this tutorial from the main menu, you will immediately land on the right lesson. Okay? I mentioned the check marks, explained the lesson structure. What else is important? This source code here is the source code written specifically for this lesson, and there's something like that in almost every one. We'll have lessons where we don't write code, but there are very few. Good, but you also have the opportunity to get the source code of the entire project created within this tutorial. To do this, go to the Source Code menu tab and enter your GitHub username. You will receive an invitation to a private repository, and you can simply get all the code and use it to create your own project, which is quite logical, because I don't see much point in typing the code manually every time written as part of some lesson. It will be enough for you to watch the video, and it might not be necessary for you to write it yourself. And now, let's talk about this part. How to approach watching lessons and learning. I strongly recommend you set a goal to create some specific project or product. What options do you have? You can create a product just for yourself, yes. That is, you came up with it, implemented it, and launched it yourself. The second option, you can team up with some people. Perhaps you have a friend who is a designer or marketer, and you can thus create your startup by combining your skills. And the third option, you can do a project for someone else for money. Yes, that is, act as a contractor. Choose the method that suits you best now and rely on that. Then, as you watch the lessons, you will not just see them as learning for the sake of learning, but as specific practices you will need to apply to your project. You'll be doing some lesson on creating a form, some standalone. In this course, we create a service where you can create ideas. We are creating an idea submission form. You, for example, are making a personal account for an investment fund. And instead of ideas, you need to create investment objects. And instead of likes for ideas, people will invest in them, for example. Why not? Simply apply all of this to your project. This will be the best approach. If you have nevertheless decided to make your own project, then just watch all the videos. Look at the source code of each individual lesson. We will cover the same things multiple times. For instance, We'll touch on TypeScript generics in one place, then again in a second and third place. And so throughout the entire course, you'll understand how to work with them. And so when you watch all the videos and examine all the source codes, just copy the final source code and start adapting it for yourself, so you don't retype what's already been done. Let it be a challenge for you to write something that wasn't covered in the lesson. At the same time, you need to consider that all the most popular features are gathered here, which are in almost every project, such as authorization, creating entities, connecting to the database, deployment, various pipelines, data exchange between back-end and front-end. That is, all of this is present in every project, and it makes sense to just reuse how it's done in this tutorial, especially considering that you will understand why, what for, and what exactly, because that's what is discussed in each video. And the negative scenario, which I don't like, if you decide to simply go through this tutorial and not create your own project, which is rather odd because the intention is that this is your goal and your interest. But okay, if you don't want to create your own product, then yes, just watch the videos and try to follow along. And perhaps during this tutorial, or maybe later, you will understand what project you would like to implement. And then you will be able to apply your knowledge to a real project. What's also important to note about these lessons is that our goal is to create a full-fledged project as a full-stack developer. To be a full-stack developer and create an entire project, you need to know a lot of things. And if we started delving into each technology and each approach by studying all the theory, this wouldn't be a tutorial, but rather 2 to 3 higher educations, and the tutorial would take years. Therefore, we take a superficial view here. And we approach more from a practical side. That is, my position is, I think it's better to do and not understand how it happened. And still, nevertheless, theory then, as it may, will follow practice, so we figured out how to apply something. We understand how to use this thing, this, say, function. We know what we can pass to it, and we understand what we can get from it. Yes, we don't quite understand what's happening under the hood right now, but used it once, used it twice, used it 3 times, noticed some patterns in its behavior, then found time and eventually read the documentation more deeply. We use it many times. We perfectly understood how it works. And in other textbooks, as often happens in learning, it's the opposite. We first thoroughly studied everything, and as soon as we encountered it in real practice, we don't know how to approach it and don't understand how to work with it. I think this situation is worse, so we treat this textbook as a practicum. That is, you won't be able to say smart things, but you'll be able to do cool things. In connection with the fact that we don't dig deeply into theory, I'll immediately note which topics will be superficially discussed here, and at the same time will be spread throughout the textbook. We will not discuss with you how JavaScript works, for example. Yes, we will not figure out what a function is and what a constant is. It is assumed that you, option 1, either already know this, or if you don't, as I said earlier, you will see how to apply it and then Google it somewhere else. Check out free educational videos on YouTube, or take another JavaScript course in addition elsewhere, and you will figure these things out there. Nevertheless, I say it is much better to just start applying it. In practice, it is not as difficult as in theory. Also, we will not go into detail, for example, on CSS and layout. That is, how we turn a design into specific layout, specific HTML tags with specific CSS styles. Nonetheless, in this project, we will create a project in a unique design. Yes, it will be very scary, but still, it will be a unique design. And that's because we're not going to dive into layout here. Also, the entire project is written in TypeScript. Yet, we will not delve deeply into TypeScript itself. We won't. However, In each lesson, we will use it. And when we encounter something interesting, I try to explain it superficially anyway, but to a sufficient extent just to apply it. Towards the end of the textbook, we will deploy our project using popular services that are very convenient to deploy to. Yes, we will look at writing a Docker file. And yet still, this is not a DevOps course. DevOps is actually a whole separate field. Here, we'll cover just the basics, necessary only to upload what we have created somewhere. Even though we skip deep diving into TypeScript, CSS, JS, and DevOps topics, we still have a gigantic guide with lots of technologies that need to be understood. And again, despite not diving deep into them, what will be the benefit? For instance, we've applied something, and you will definitely understand some parts and not understand others, which will lead to specific questions forming. And that's the best part. If you have a specific question, it's not difficult to find an answer to it. But if your question is something like, I don't understand how to create a product from scratch, you won't be able to Google the answer. That's what this global questions answer is contained in this guide. After completing it, you'll likely have many more questions than before, but now they'll be more specific. And what to do with specific questions? I offer you the following options. First, you can try simply Googling. You don't fully understand how a useState or useEffect React hook works. Google it. If you don't fully understand, go to YouTube and watch an analysis. These videos are usually 5 to 10 minutes long, and you don't need to study everything. You already know what you don't understand, so look for the answer. Okay, Google, YouTube. Later, if you have a specific but not very clear question, and you need to talk to someone, talk to ChatGPT. Write yes, it will explain everything clearly. That's a great option. The next method. Suppose there is a very vague question, and ChatGPT isn't helpful, and it's still unclear. You have the following options. You can come to me for a private consultation. These consultations can be even 20 minutes long, more than enough to explain anything if the question is somewhat specific, and I'd be happy to help. We also have a group with a small number of people meeting several times a week, and in this group, we will constantly analyze the cases of each participant. And that's why you can ask your questions there and see how we answer the questions of other group members, and accordingly, get answers to your questions as well. Hear some other questions that you might also have, and get answers to them too. Also, we are building a community based on Discord and Telegram for you guys. You can ask your questions there, and maybe community members will help you, but this might not be the best idea. All the previous methods are much more effective. Nonetheless, I hope the community will be beneficial. At the same time, I understand that it would be good to have some additional educational materials on the mentioned areas: JS, TypeScript, CSS, DevOps. But these are obviously different textbooks or courses. I would like to create them, but at the time of recording this video and creating this textbook, I haven't made these courses yet. If I realize that this would be valuable to someone, and there aren't currently any resources that explain it the way I would, not because my explanation is perfect, but because my format might suit someone. I plan to do this in the future. If you're interested in additional educational resources on JS, CSS, TS, and DevOps, kind of like, let me know, and this moment will come closer. For now, I recommend you simply start creating your own project. Form specific questions, find answers to them, and as a result, create a product and gain experience. Then go on to create more and more projects. All right, thank you all. I'm glad we figured out how to approach learning. Let's start with it. See you soon.